Today on Coding 101, it's the wonderful world of CPAN.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Coding 101 is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Welcome to Coding 101. It's the Twitch show where the transition happened way too fast, but we still let you into the world of the Code Monkey. I'm Father Robert Ballosair.
And I am Shannon Morrison. For the next 30 minutes, we are going to get you all coded up on everything you need to know to be a Perl code warrior.
Boom.
I'm ready.
Shannon.
Yes.
This is it.
No.
It's the last
Wait,
episode.
is it really?
It is. I know, right?
It's been 8 episodes?
We
No.
we keep running into this. We get to the end of the module and we regret our decision to not just keep going with a single language. But it's time. You know, we've had 8 episodes of Perl, and now we need to move on to something else. But that also means that this is the episodes where we blow their minds.
Uh-oh.
We're going to give them some
Blow their
challenging.
minds. I'm excited about that. Well, first, I think we should do a little bit of review.
Yes.
So we already learned how to do a get edit on a Perl script, and that ends up basically letting you see exactly what the entry form was at the top on the screen, on the little toolbar at the top. So if you don't want that to show up, you can also use post, which is an alternative. I did a little script on my computer, so this looks exactly the same as the last one that I did for get. You just put in your favorite companion and his or her name, so I'll say, yes, I do, and then Amy. So this isn't going to work because I don't have it uploaded. And then if I look at the HTML, I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Okay, so this is just simple HTML up here. It's just the title of it, Doctor Who Companions, that's my header. Ask for the user's favorite companion in the form of a form. This is the action, so this is the important part. I'm using post instead of get. So that is the little piece that I add to my HTML file to make it work. Now over in my Python file, which is right here, when I scroll down, the only difference that I had to make was right here. So I changed this standard input, and I made sure that it reads the length of the content that was inputted to the file. And then everything else is exactly the same as what I showed last week.
Right. So what it will do is it will allow you to get that information from the form, input it as a string, turn it into something that's usable by the program. It takes the length of the string, because that's actually very important when you start playing around with what's in there, and then it turns into a standard input so that Perl can understand what's going on.
Exactly.
I love it. That's fantastic. It's so simple, really.
It is. So I actually recently found something that was kind of interesting. I was searching through DuckDuckGo's security settings over on the DuckDuckGo search engine, which is a little bit different than Google because they say they don't collect any of your information.
Right.
They use post for all of their entries instead of get.
As they should.
Yeah. And I found that interesting because I was like, oh, I know what that is now.
and you know, again, let's go over the reason why you would use post and why you would use get. Post is more secure. It's not secure, but it is more secure than get because all the information, that entire string, doesn't go into the URL.
Right.
It also means that you're not as length limited because the length of a URL can be as limited to as low as 1024 characters, which means you have to use multiple gets in order to get the information off the form. Also not advisable. But what get does allow you to do is if, for example, I have something that I want people to be able to bookmark, you can bookmark a get. You cannot bookmark a post.
Exactly.
So, you know, you have to know which each one is for and what the strengths and the weaknesses are, and that's what decides where you use each one.
I like it. It's very, very fun and very interesting. Now, we don't have any user-submitted ones this week, but I did want to remind everybody, if you're interested, go over to Google Plus and search in the communities for Twit Coding 101. We have lots of awesome examples over there, and we have a really, really growing community, over 1,000 strong. And they are very, very helpful if you ever have any questions or concerns, or you just want to, you know, share your own code. So definitely go Twit Coding 101 in the Google Plus community.
All right. Now, let's take a trip to the ivory tower. Now, we have been showing some very basic Perl commands, how to take input in, how to print out, how to do regular expressions, how to use post and get so that you can dynamically generate web pages from user input. Now we need to take it to the next level. And this is where we like to leave our users when they get to episode 7 and 8, which is something that they can play with. So we're talking about CPAN.
Yay!
CPAN.
What is CPAN?
CPAN is the Comprehensive Perl Archive Network. Just like with when we were talking about Python, we were talking about these modules that we can use, right?
Yeah.
It's always good because
oh, so this is like different scripts that you can grab from.
Precisely right. You can integrate into your program. And one of the advantages of using an object-oriented language is the ability to take work that someone else has done and to integrate it into your program. And the more advanced languages have better and better ways to do it. Well, Perl is one of the languages that is built on this idea of I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. So
I don't have to do anything. I can be lazy.
Well, you got to do a little bit. You got. I mean, you have to know how it works.
Of course.
But at the same time, it means like, for example, if I want to integrate my software, the program that I'm writing, with someone's weather application.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say Google is running some weather stuff.
Okay.
Well, if they have a module in CPAN, because they know that Perl users are going to want to access their API, then I don't have to do all that nitty-gritty work of figuring out, okay, what goes where and how do I call and where does the data come from? No, that's all figured out in the module, and basically all I have to know is what data I can push to it and what data I get back from it.
Ooh,
nice, right?
I like it.
Yeah. So CPAN has over 100,000. I think the last count was like 136,000, something like that. It's modules.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's a lot. Well, there's a lot of programmers.
So don't expect to memorize them.
No, you're not going to memorize them. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you get into CPAN. We're going to show you how you search for a module in CPAN, and then we're going to show you how to install it.
Awesome.
And it's going to sound complicated, but it's crazy, crazy easy.
Okay.
In fact, the method we're going to show is probably at least an order of magnitude more difficult than the method you could use if you actually knew what the module name was. In fact, I think Patrick, he was showing me, he's like, yeah, the way you did it, that's long. That's really long. I just do it like this. But yeah.
So if you don't know the name of any modules, you can use this
is what we do.
Form.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how to get into CPAN. If you could go ahead and go to input 10, what I've done is I've dropped into, oh, no,
wrong one.
That's wrong one. That's
it's
there
so
we go.
pretty.
This is a standard command line. So this is in Windows, but for you it would be Mac, it would be the terminal, right?
Right.
So all I have to do is I have to type Perl-mcpan-e-shell. Looks like that. So if I type this and I hit enter, and remember I have Perl installed on this computer already, it's going to drop me into the CPAN environment. Now, a bit of warning. If you are running a Windows machine, the very first time you do this, it's going to give you a warning. It's going to say it's missing modules. Don't worry about it. It's gonna download all the packages and repositories.
That's what mine's doing right now.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll take a while. So it's going to take a while. In fact, go to Shannon's computer right now. You can see what it looks like. So it's going to download all these packages, and your computer will be ready to work with in CPAN in probably like 3-4 minutes.
Well, that's cool. It's nice that it's just automatically downloading all the necessary bits.
Yeah.
I don't have to press yes or anything.
It wasn't always like this. In the early versions of Perl for Windows, you actually had to go download the individual modules and install them. That was a pain in the butt. This is much, much easier. So come back to my computer. Now that we're in CPAN, what we have to do is we need to search for some modules. Now, let's say I want to search for LWP modules. LWP is short for Library for WWW in Perl. It's a set of modules that allow you to access data in the World Wide Web. So what I want to do is I want to invoke the search function. I'm going to put I/LWP, which tells me what kind of library I'm looking for. And then I'm also going to put another slash because I say, show me all the modules that you have for LWP. And when I do this, it's going to go through its database and it's going to pull up all the modules for LWP it has.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot. And now what I can do is I can scroll through these, and then when I find the name and like, oh, this is cache, what does this do? I can actually look it up and figure out what that module does specifically.
Oh, that's cool.
But in our particular case, we're looking for a different module. We want to find a module that lets us play with weather. So I'm going to put and let's see if I can remember the proper name for this module. It's going to be Weather Underground.
Weather Underground.
And it's going to find one module. So there's a module called Underground Weather, and it's gonna show me the user ID, the person who uploaded. It's gonna show me the version, and it's gonna show me the actual file name, and it's also gonna tell me whether or not it's been installed on my computer. It says it's not. Now here's the cool thing. Now that I know that it's in the CPAN library, this is what I use to install it. Super, super complicated. You better write this down. Install Weather Underground. I know that's super complicated, right?
Spell
Except if I spell it correctly, that totally helps. I have Intel on the right. Install, steal. Oh my gosh, this has become typing 101. Weather Underground. There we go. And now all it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and install this module. This entire module, it's going to go ahead and put into my computer.
I found it.
There you go. And once it's done, let's actually see if I can find it here. Once it's done, it's actually going to drop it into the Perl directory that I've got on my computer here. And for me, it's in C, it's in Perl 64, it's in CPAN, and it's in build. And as you can see, it's gone ahead. Go ahead and zoom in on that. It started to put those modules onto my computer so I have access when I'm programming in Perl.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. Now the other thing, the reason why you want to know the location is because most of the time, if you go in here, they'll give you the directions for accessing the module in here. There'll be a README file, there'll be a start file, there'll be some sort of instructions for what commands you can issue to the module and what data you get back.
Cool. Okay.
Right? Which is nice. So what I've just done is I have taken someone else's work and I've dropped it onto my terminal so that I can use their programming to make something happen.
That's awesome.
Right, so,
I love that people have already done this for us. Thank
I know,
you.
right?
Thank you.
That's again, that's one of the advantages of programming in the here and the now.
Yeah.
You know, just even 20 years ago, you basically had to write everything from scratch unless you found some repository. Well, with the advent of the internet and with all these connected users, it's now easy to say, hey, I just wrote a really cool module that takes X and does Y with it. And I put it into a repository, and anyone who needs that to happen can just load it into their install.
Now, are there different modules other than LWP?
Oh yeah. Oh no. Those. Yeah. That was one example.
That's just like one folder.
Yeah.
Of
Weather Underground is
files.
not an LWP module, but there's a lot of modules. So again, searching in here is not. It's not like Google searching. You kind of have to know
database.
There's actually several online databases. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it's really easy. All you have to do is put Perl repository, and it'll show you. And then what you do is, once you find the name of the module, search the CPAN archive to make sure it's in there, and if it's in there, install it.
Ah, cool.
Done.
Awesome.
Easy cheesy. Now, this is the time when we bring in our code warrior, and since this is his last time, what we want him to do is we want him, now that we've shown them how to install the module onto their machine, to actually do something with that CPAN archive.
Yay!
So we welcome him back to the show for maybe the last time, at least the last time for the near future, Mr. Patrick Delahanty. Patrick, thank you so very much for coming back.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yo, what up?
Hey.
Now, Patrick, I know you've got a much faster way to use CPAN. This is sort of the beginner's guide to CPAN, but you're actually going to show us what you could do with one of these downloaded modules.
Yeah, now that you've got the weather dominator installed, we can start dominating that weather.
All right, show us.
Okay. Well, I wrote up an example, and it's the Coding 101 weather station.
Ooh.
And it's a rather simple script. I just enter the postal code. So for Petaluma, it's 94952. And current weather at Bright Star Weather Station, Petaluma, California is 85.1 degrees Fahrenheit and clear.
Yeah,
So
I can
this
attest
is
to
this
that.
underground weather module that we just downloaded. Where's it pulling this data from?
It's pulling it from Weather Underground, the website, wunderground.com. They have a module just to pull that data. And so I can, I've got a few more examples here. And it'll show what I did with the script. If we look at the weather in 04073,
Maine.
it's clear there now. Earlier it was a thunderstorm.
How about San Francisco? 94116.
94116. I wonder. Oh, it's partly cloudy there.
Look at
Partly
that.
cloudy, and evidently there's a chance of Guardians of the Galaxy. What is that? You pulled a picture from the movie? What?
I have the background change depending on what the weather is. So here it's partly cloudy, so you get clouds. If we look at let's see, 02134. 02134. Mostly cloudy in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
That's cool. Okay, so it works.
And I've got another one, 03589. Fog on Mount Washington.
All right, so this is actually a great example of a module that's very generic because, again, you can hit it, you give it data, which is the postal code of the location, and then it gives you back the weather at that location. Very
Apparently,
simple.
there's a Sharknado in New York City.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, that's great.
And so I've got I can show off the code that I used to do all this. I've got extra comments because it's the last
Thank you for
Perl
your
module,
comments.
so I want to make sure everything's covered. And people can find this on our GitHub later on. So
Your code is so pretty.
I used that Perl CGI module that I introduced last week. This is just another CPAN module, but it's pretty standard to be installed on most web servers. Now, when I installed the Weather Underground module on my Mac here, it installed it in my own private directory. So I actually had to tell Perl to use any libraries it finds in this Perl 5 directory.
Right, and I already showed them exactly where they'd find it if they have a Windows machine. It's going to be in the C drive, it's going to be Perl 64, it's going to be CPAN, it's going to be build, and then you find the library.
Yep. Then I just set a page title, so if I wanted to change this to something else, in the 3 places I use it, I didn't have to do that. Then I have this subroutine just to print the top of the HTML page. And we'll go down to where that is. And that's just doing the content type and then the head, and it pulls in that page title.
Oh, that's nice.
That's just to get it out of the way. And then if you submitted the form via post, display the weather. But I started out down here with else. That's if it's not a post, there was no form data submitted. So it just displays the sunny background and then has the top of page and then does the search box and then the footer. So it's just displaying the title of the page, the search box, and then it closes off the HTML.
And that only happens if they don't put anything in.
No, that's if I go to straight to the Perl script without submitting.
Ah,
So if they try to,
If they,
like, bookmark
if they try
it
to
or
get
Yeah, so if I go right there, I just get the blank page. There's
Cool.
no, the weather's currently whatever.
Okay.
Now when I do a post, that's this part. If it's the request method equals post, I look at the form submission. So I take the input from the CGI script and I just pull out the zip code parameter. And I save that in this variable. Then I use the Perl module. And there were instructions that came with it that told me how to do it. So that came in very handy.
Cool.
They had little examples. So I just copied the code and they actually had hard-coded a place, but I put in my variable because I want to be able to change this. So I have it set the place with the zip code. If I change this debug to a 1, it displays all sorts of variables and other information, which was useful when I developed this to help debug the code. And if there's
What
an
does
error,
this die?
if there's a problem, like maybe if their site's down, it will die. And it will come up with an error, cannot create weather object.
What I like about this is you're also showing them that you should always build fail into your code. There should always be something that happens when it receives something unexpected. You did that with the else statement so that if someone tried to bookmark it, it will come back with a default screen. And you've done it here if the service goes down. Otherwise, what will happen is the program will either spin its wheels or it will just give an unknown error to the user and they get ticked off.
So if we look at the next step, it gets the weather back. So it's got this array ref. It's just an array or it's a variable that it fills with an array that has the weather. And then there was this one in the example, which I used to help me code this because it listed all the variables it returns and all the values. So it told me it had temperature in Celsius, it had wind, it had moonrise, sunset, and all sorts of information.
That you didn't really want.
I didn't really need all that, but it was there, so I could pull out the ones I wanted. And so I did that down below where I set the place, which was, you notice after I entered the zip code, it said the name of the city. And then I get the temperature in Fahrenheit. Canadians could change that to Celsius or any other country. And then the conditions. This is where it says it's sunny, partly cloudy. If you actually look at the Weather Underground site and search for a place, Petaluma, this is where it would say clear.
Ah, okay.
And so it's just pulling that value. Back to my code. And then down here, I'm doing all the crazy stuff.
Whoa.
I made this special exception. If you enter the zip code 10101, it doesn't care what the weather is. It just says, oh no, it's a Sharknado, and you're in New York City.
That's what we would call an Easter egg.
Yes,
Something
exactly.
hard-coded to give you just something strange.
And then if the condition is fog or mist, I change the background to fog.
That's cool.
And then text color, because it's a light colored background, I want to make the text black. So I use this hex code for black, as opposed to the Sharknado and the thunderstorm one, which would dark images. So I needed the white color. And so it does that for partly cloudy or scattered clouds. It shows the Guardians of the Galaxy image. But if it's just cloudy or overcast, it'll use a different image. And then any of the rain ones, shower, thunderstorm, rain, it will use that image. And then if it's something else, just assumes it's sunny. So if it's going to snow, I might want to put in something. But
Yeah.
right now, I don't have that.
So where did you put all these backgrounds? Like, where are the actual files?
Yeah, I'm getting to that next.
Oh, okay.
Because it prints after it gets all this set, it prints the top of the page. And in that, I've got this thing down here. It sets a little style sheet in HTML, and it uses an image and then this background variable.
That's a variable, right?
So that's where I had fog, I had Sharknado, I had rain,
How
and it just
cool.
pulls in the image from this directory on my web server. So I've got all these images.
Now, something that might be interesting of note for people who are going to start trying to play with this. Notice how, if you look at the original images as he's doing each condition, he didn't put guardians.jpg or cloudy.jpg.
He
just
actually put the
guardians,
variable.
cloudy, exactly. And then down below, the variable only replaces the first part of the file name, and it leaves .jpg. So that's all you have to do. It will adjust itself every time it makes a new selection.
Now, if I wanted to use a PNG, then I would have to go and include that part in the name. But
in your instance,
because
you
they're
knew
all
that,
JPEGs.
Yeah, all the graphics were JPEG, so you don't have the ending was the same, so it's not variable. And if it's not variable, why use a variable?
You would have to mess with the code a lot if you wanted a .png, because then it would show up as .png.jpg, wouldn't it?
Yeah, unless I made the background variable also include either .jpg, .gif, .png,
Right.
.whatever.
It's just more work.
And so then I just set the text color, and I have the search form included.
There's the post sign.
Yes, there's a post. And so this form can submit back to itself because it's displaying an HTML form within itself. So it just submits to its own place. And so it just
So
works.
Patrick, I could see someone who starts to play with CPAN modules kind of freaking out because once they've downloaded them, they don't know what to do with them. I mean, it seems really simple when you do it. When you go ahead and download a module and use it, we can see your code. But what would you say is the key for someone getting a module and then figuring out how to push data to it and how to get data from it?
Well, it really depends on the module because they all do different things. I mean, you've got modules to do just basic HTML things. You can make the headers of the page, or you've got complicated modules that go and they could manipulate images for you and resize images. And you could post to Twitter, you could post to Facebook with some modules. And so it depends on the module, and you need to look at the documentation for that module to figure out how it works.
Okay.
And hopefully they have some good example code that you can at least try out. And I did that. I took the example, just put it in, and made sure that the module worked. I had actually tried a different module before this one. It was for Google Weather, and I put in the example code, and it didn't work. And after doing a little bit of research, I discovered that Google had actually disabled their support for that. And so that's why it wasn't working. It wasn't my fault.
I have to say that's one of the downsides of having these huge networks is that the archive there's normally at least a decent percentage of those modules that no longer work. Either they haven't been updated for the latest version of any particular programming language that you're using, or the services on which they were built on have died or shut their doors. So you always have to test it before you go forward.
Make sure it's not broken.
Now, I did want to point out, I saw somebody in the chat ask if the background .jpeg was the entire variable. It's actually just background.
Right.
It realizes that a period is not a valid character for a variable name, so it knows that's where the
It just
that's the
replaces
variable.
that.
Yeah.
So we got this really cute picture in the Google Plus community from programming.com that says, always code as if the guy who ends up maintaining your code will be a violent psychopath who knows where you live.
We call that comment. Comment, 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 comment. Put as many comments as you possibly can. Comment so much that it hurts. Comment so much that people who are looking at your code going, my gosh, why are you commenting so much? Unless you hear that, it means you're not commenting enough.
I love that. It's so true.
Patrick Delahanty, we want to thank you so very much for sticking with us, for being our code warrior for the last 8 weeks. It's been a challenge. I mean, Perl is an interesting language.
Perl is challenging.
It is challenging because doesn't give you the warm fuzzy like C# did or Python, where you have, this is my program.
Yep.
Perl is all about building off integration with HTML, integration with other modules, integration with other languages.
Which can be really cool because you're able to work with so many other coders on things like this.
I think the best thing about Perl is that it shows you how interconnected the programming experience is. You can't just code in one language anymore.
Yeah.
You kind of need them all.
You need to know several. I'm so glad we're doing this show.
Sad. But Patrick, if you could, please tell the folks where they can find you. We will bring you back at some point, but until then, we're going to put you back in your dungeon in the back of the Twit Brick House. So make it good. Where can they find Patrick Delahanty?
You can follow me on Twitter at @pdelahanty, and also my website is adequate.com. It's just a portal to everything else I do.
Hey, I see people.
So yeah, there's AnimeCons TV, there's the Chibi Project, and all my other websites, they're linked from that one place. Yes, I did put a Dremel through a Game Boy.
Oh, by the way, I should mention this. This is a good comment. We have a comment from Dallas directed at you saying, well, yeah, and if you put that many comments, also budget into your project time updating the comments as you update your code. That's super frustrating. I love comments, but I hate people who have left comments in that no longer apply. Like they fixed a bug, so they don't have to comment, but they still do. So you're doing the workaround in the comments, and you're like, why isn't
Also, one thing I have noticed too is read all of the comments and all of the code before you start messing with stuff, because sometimes people would put comments after the line that it's included with, which is really confusing.
I used one module that had 300 lines of comments, but they were all at the bottom. And I'm like, seriously? So
That's just poor design.
It's lame, but I actually took the lines of comments and I put them up where they deserve to be, and I uploaded it back into the repository.
Oh, that's funny.
And he got mad at me, but whatever. I think that's about it. Now, I know this is a lot of material, so if you want to find out exactly what we did, you can always find our code, our examples, our links at our show page. Where's that found?
That's over at twit.tv/coding101. And you can find the link to the GitHub where Padre has been updating it with all of our code, as well as show notes and the actual shows.
Yes, and we are still working on a better way to show off our code. We would really like everything in one page. I think that's going to come with the new website redesign, so stay tuned. Also, as Shannon mentioned before, you got to join the G+ community. It's over 1,000 users and growing. It's a really good place to go if you are an expert, an intermediate, or a beginning programmer, because it's filled with people who will help. They're always helpful in there. Tell them what your problem is, tell them what language you're using, and I guarantee you there'll be some people who have the answer.
Our Google Plus community is awesome! So we do have a profile, which is what he's showing, and then there's the community. You have to search inside of communities to find it. And I think it's also like plus.google.com/communities/twitcoding101, maybe?
Yeah,
they all switch it up. It's very hard to find it if you just type in a link. So it's easier to just search.
Woot, woot. Also, you can find us on Twitter. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. We don't do the email thing so well. You'll find me at twitter.com/PadreSJ. That's at PadreSJ.
And I'm at Snubs.
Whoa, wait. Where did you come from? I thought you were Skyping in.
I've been here the whole time.
And wait, where did they find you? You're at P Delahanty. on Twitter. Thank you, the empty desk. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Balacer.
I'm Shannon Morse.
End of line.